Hello and welcome my friends to The Flying Kick. I am Savino and today I'll bring to you the review of The Last Beat Enhanced, released the last Thursday for Switch, Xbox and PlayStation. This game was originally released for PC in 2020 and now was finally ported to the consoles. But is this little game worth the $10 asked? Well, let's find out right now. The game takes place in Retrotown, a city that was taken by the Mad Stroke gang and now a group of people decided to... well, you already know how it goes. It's your old story, or should I say, excuse to go around slapping people in the face. There isn't much here. The story is presented in 2 frames before the game starts and soon you're out and about in the first level, the streets of the city, to beat some baddies. The game has a total of 9 levels that will take you from the city streets to the mountains to a prison, but no subway level here, which is wrong, as you all know very well. Jokes aside, the game is pretty well made, with gorgeous 8-bit graphics and excellent use of colors. The scenarios are rich in details, with some parallax in the foreground in some levels and some interesting details and moving parts scattered throughout the level. As I said, the game has an 8-bit aesthetic, so don't go expecting flashy special effects with your move or specials. Talking about moves, the game offers you a basic variety of attacks. You have your punch, jump, a flying kick, a special move that has its own bar that refills over time, a grab and a block. The block can be used as a counter-attack if you time it right, but in my experience due to the placement of the button, you won't be using the block too much. You see, the block is set to A on the Switch, B on Xbox, Circle on PlayStation, instead of L or R. This is something that always bothers me, because moving your finger from Y to A takes a lot of time, at least for games like these. Another thing that renders the block useless is the fact that it does not cancel your attack. You have to wait for the animation to finish and the character returns to the original position to activate the block. It would be great if the block cancelled your attacks to make it more useful, because the counter is very cool to watch and a pretty good way to control crowds. The same problem is found with the special. The lack of cancelling will make you curse the moments when you need the special move, but were unable to perform because your character still needs to finish the punch. Another problem that we will find here is that you can use your special when you are being hit. This is a bad design choice, because in most games your special is exactly for this type of situation. Here, it's more useful when you get surrounded than when you are really in trouble. Other than that, everything works great. The controls are snappy and responsive, and its simplicity makes it pretty easy to pick up and play. This brings us to some interesting points about the gameplay. The game has a quote-unquote economy, where you need money to do everything. Let me explain. As soon as you start the game, you are presented with 2 playable characters, John and Noah. The other 3 characters are all locked, being Dean, the Salamander Man, the only one unlockable with story progression. The other 2, Aris and Zari, must be purchased with the money you get playing the game. You will get money hitting your enemies, killing them, or finding inside barrels or other breakable objects. You will earn $1 for each punch, 10 for each kill, and 50 for the money you find on the ground. But these values can be raised up to 9 times the original one if you manage to land 90 hits without taking damage. This is not hard to achieve, especially if you use Noah, the weakest of the characters, and, for the same reason, the one that will give you the most money. You will also need money to buy extra lives. Last Beats offers you only 1 life per level, and if you die, you will have the option to buy a life on the spot to continue, if you have enough money, that is, or return to the map and restart the level. And, at least at the beginning of the game, extra lives aren't cheap, going from $3,000 to $5,000 in later levels, so you have to decide if you want the money to unlock the extra characters or just finish the game. You can also buy enhancement at the beginning of the level to make your journey easy, like faster regen for your special, double damage to your punches, or an extra energy bar for your character. These enhancements aren't cheap, and some of them, like double damage, will actually hurt your earnings since you will kill your enemies faster, but they are a nice addition and something to play with after you beat the game and if you wanna test each effect on each character. Talking about the characters, you have 5 to choose. Well, not at the beginning as I said, because 3 are locked. You start with John, your all-around guy with all stats, speed, strength and special powers set to medium. and Noah, the fast but weak girl. Soon enough, you will rescue Jin, the salamander man, that works as your tank in the game, slow and extremely powerful. Later, you'll be able to buy Aris and Zari, which are both a little disappointing since they are simply palette swaps of John and Nora with higher stats, making the game extremely easy to beat. And since I'm talking about beats, let's talk about the beats that will accompany you in the game. In one word, it's excellent. The soundtrack is a cheap tune delight, with a lot of upbeat tracks that can rival easily with the best. I even recommend you to lower the SFX and rise the music so you can enjoy some pretty great tunes. The SFX are nothing special, but they aren't bad either. They are 8 bits and that's all I got for you. Punches, steps, enemies falling, all those sounds have that typical 8-bit signatures that, while not amazing, it's well made and won't bother you, especially if you lower it and up the music as I said. You may have noticed that I didn't touch the combat so far and... well, there's a reason for it. While the controls are great and responsive and the combat, although simple but satisfying, Last Beat has a problem that drags the combat down a lot in my opinion. You can stun lock any enemy with ease. A simple sequence of slow punches will lock your enemy in place from the most common foe to the last boss and kill them easily. Check this out. The AI doesn't help either. You see, if you manage to stun lock 2 enemies at once, any other enemy on the screen will do everything they can to avoid you, including falling in traps laying around the levels. Yes, there's some environmental hazards in the game that I forgot to mention. This renders the game absurdly easy, even on hard, because the enemy has no way whatsoever to attack you. This ends up making the game a little boring after some time, and you will have to fight the game to avoid doing this if you want to give your enemies a fair chance. It's a pity, because everything else in the game is very, very good. The developer is clearly someone very talented, but I think that maybe the playtesting of the game was made by people that enjoy beat'em ups but weren't particularly well versed in them. Or maybe this was intentional and I'm wrong thinking this is a flaw. Whatever the answer is, the fact is, the combat could be way better if it wasn't for the weak AI and the absurdly easy to perform stun lock. In the end, for $10, this is hard to recommend. You can get better game for less, like many of the arcade archives on Switch and PS4, or way better games for a little more, like Mayhem Brawler or Fight and Rage. Both games are always on sale for less than $15, so... Also, you can get the non-enhanced version for $5 on itch.io, but I have no idea what's the difference since I'm unable to buy it for PC. Long story short, I don't have an international credit card. But if you're like me and already got almost all beat'em ups in the face of the earth and are really looking for something new to play while you wait for River City Girls 2, I would say, yeah, go for it. It's not a bad game, it's not broken or anything like it, but there's nothing special to it. I played it for around 4 hours to unlock everything, and during all this time I had my share of fun. Even now, while writing this review and getting back to the game to check something, I was sometimes carried away and kept playing instead of writing this, so I guess this says a lot. This conclusion is pretty confusing, so let's make it better. If you're looking for a challenge game to put your skill to the test and put dozens of hours refining your techniques, this is not the game. If you're looking for an old school, somewhat flawed beat-em up arcade experience with some cool mechanics, this game will be right up your alley. The dev put in a lot of work and love, and it shows. And that's it for the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed this small review. Don't forget to like and subscribe. The channel has been slowing down in numbers recently, so liking and sharing would help me a lot to continue to bring to you honest reviews of all beat'em ups I can get my hands on. And also, don't forget to check our magazine at www.brawlersalley.com, link in the description. See you guys in the next video, and remember, keep it up.